Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, everybody. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's version of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Appreciate you being on board here. You're probably a chiropractor, dentist, engineer, pilot. That's who we're attracting here, which is great. Because what this is, guys, this is not the no money down owner financial stuff. These are real people investing real dollars in real properties, making real money. And you've often got a business or practice that you like to expand to. And this is one sure good fire way to do it. Because real estate investing is not the end game. It's simply the foundation upon which you can launch and grow your other businesses. And I've got a great guest today. I'll introduce her in a moment. Tom Schaff is a friend of mine. We've known each other for years. And he coaches people in business to grow their business. He's a sales trainer. And everything that he teaches you can be applicable in your business. So, but very quickly, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. You can find it on any one of 75 different channels. iHeartTunes, Apple, all those different venues and sources. And also, if you want to be part of the community, we're several thousand strong now all across the U.S. and Canada. And there's a great website we've created where there's a community page. It's a closed network. Only us guys are on there. Business people who do see investing in real estate as a way to provide passive income and help them secure your businesses, keep them safe, and let you get out from behind the chair. Okay. So, in any case, without further ado, I want to welcome my good friend Tom Schaff. Tom, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Great.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. And I just, I gave just a brief introduction. We know each other, but a lot of people listening, they might not know who you are, where you are, and what you do. But if you could just describe a little bit about who you are and tell us some cool stuff, because you've got some great experiences in life that I think a lot of these folks would be really excited to hear about,
Well, that's kind of you. My name is Tom Schaff, and what I do for a living is I create exit value for people that own businesses that want to sell them. Most of my clients are in the private equity space. I solve a variety of problems. They can't get enough opportunities, can't get to the right person in an opportunity, not realizing the size of sale that we'd like. Sales cycles are protracting, or hiring a bunch of people and they don't tend to work out. So those are the problems that we solve. The areas that we do it in are a myriad of industries. And I'm fortunate that I'm able to work on 4 continents right now.
Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. Hopefully they're the ones in the middle bands of the earth and not the north and the south.
Well, there's been some of that too, but we'll take them wherever we have. And I'm so excited to be here because today is a holy day to me.
Okay.
It's the day where pitchers and catchers report to spring training. If you can look from behind, I'm a baseball fan. And what makes me different is everything I do is through the analogy of baseball, which is why I call my company Major League Sales. All winter, I had to watch football, and now I finally can watch the real sport. It's okay if you don't like baseball. It's kind of for smart people, I say.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. A lot of people, some people are just going to be listening. They won't have the visual, but some people will have the visual, and I can see all the baseball bats and the baseballs. And I got to ask you, because I'm a huge sports nut, what would you say is your favorite collectible there? I see a lot of baseballs. You got any really sweet ones like from Babe Ruth or Frank Robinson just passed away? Okay, which one is that one?
Well, let's see if you can see it.
A little bit of a glare.
Really closely right there in faint ink.
I can't make it out. I can see the ink, but I can't. It's the
That's
glare.
Jackie Robinson.
Oh, wow. That is awesome.
He turned 100 years old last week on January 31st. And then if you tilt the ball right here, this is Babe Ruth.
Oh, man.
Jackie Robinson started in the major leagues in 1947. Babe Ruth died in 1948. And somewhere in the middle of that, they signed this ball together. This one's a little easier. This is Jackie Robinson and Roy Campanella.
Nice.
Roy was the 6th African-American, I think, to play in baseball and 3-time MVP. Then he had a tragic car accident where he was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And then this ball, I got it covered up, but that is the great Satchel Paige.
Oh, wow.
The greatest Negro Leagues player of all time. So Those are oddly my three favorite things that I have in my office today.
Yeah. Well, I know there was a project you had going on a year or two ago, and it had to do with some cornfields and a vision you had about a field. Just to work, I know we're here to talk about business, but I just think this is so important because it shows that when you believe in something strongly enough and you're ambitious enough, you're willing to be resourceful and apply those resources, you really can make dreams come true. And what you did, I think, is absolutely astounding. And I think you can really help people boost their belief in themselves and their desire to get out there and take action by hearing what you just accomplished.
Well, what I believe is that sales is about helping people get what they want and what their dreams are. And one of the greatest places in America is the Field of Dreams in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
That movie site where the house was and the stadium, they were for sale. Two families owned it. A partner of mine initiated an effort to buy that field. And she unfortunately passed in November at 46 from liver cancer.
Wow.
Denise Dillman. But her husband, who's also in the real estate business, Tom Meitzel, we have a group of 20 people that bought the field. And we bought the 200 acres around it. And currently, we are working, raised about $25 million to go out and build 24 stadiums that are the greatest stadiums of ever. It's called All-Star Ballpark Heaven.
Okay.
Our company that owns it is called Go the Distance. We're going to host tournaments for kids. We're going to have a dormitory, 100 teams that come in, play at the fields in historic baseball parks and leave. I heard somebody say, Gary, money doesn't buy you happiness. They never saw a guy own the Field of Dreams before. And I guarantee you, when I was visiting several years ago, batting behind Reggie Jackson and before Pete Rose, I never regretted going out and working hard to make an extra buck, to have some experiences. When I started my company, Major League Sales, we brought the cast of Major League, the movie, out. It was Charlie Sheen's 52nd birthday, and my team was Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, Corbin Burnson, Reggie Jackson, Ozzie Smith, various great players. Everything's possible for people that do the work, pay their dues, and then are willing to put their butt on the line. And so thanks for asking. We love it. We're going to have big news. I can't tell you tonight. We have a board meeting. I'm one of the people on the board of our project. But watch the news, because great news about the Field of Dreams is coming.
Man, I can't wait. Well, by the way, I wanted to tell you this. I'm doing a 3-day event, and for the second quarter, June 15th. Hang on one second, Tom, because I'm going to have you come there. It's 14th, 15th, 16th. And right now it's down to 3 different cities to choose, and St. Louis is one of the top 3. I think we just put St. Louis over the top.
There you go. Well, let's go.
So I've got one coming up here on April 5th, 6th, 7th in Anaheim, right outside the gates of Disneyland. We're going to do 4 this year, but I'll keep you posted on that. Right now, what I want to do, though, is Tom.
I'm going to be in Anaheim those days.
Are you really?
I'm going to be out in Anaheim at the opening day I'm collecting. I have a goal. It's to be at the first day of every opening day at every field.
Yeah.
And so I'm going out to Anaheim. I think the game is April 4th.
Wow.
April 4th. So I'll be in Anaheim on Thursday to watch the first game of the year and spend my day. Because you know what? You got to collect something, Gary, right?
Yeah.
But, if that worked out, I'd be in the area. If not, I'm going to go to the NCAA basketball tournament, which, you got to do what you got to do.
Well, I'm gonna call you in the next day or two, because I'm going to invite you to come out there and stand in front of my folks and show them what you got, man. So,
all right.
Yeah. So speaking of what you got, what I want to do is the reason I thought of you with this is a lot of the people I'm attracting really are professionals in their own fields, and we think differently about real estate investing. We're not into the flip a switch and the play the lottery type thing. We're not hoop and wishing, and we're actually making correct, successful moves. And real estate is sort of the foundation upon which we can grow these other businesses. And everything has to do, it's sale. If nobody sells anything, nothing happens. So if you could give little people, maybe you've got like an avatar like a client maybe you recently worked with and describe what that looks like? Because some of these folks are probably going to reach out to you because I know your background. I know you work with some of the top people on the planet. And I think if they knew what you do with just an example, boy, that would be awesome if you don't mind sharing,
Well, again, getting in front of enough people, getting in front of the right people, hiring an organization, shortening a sales cycle, working on conversion, making it so more people buy. And underneath that, it's taking a look at and making a higher sale. So customers I work with would typically sell something. The way we change their business is we slow things down. We go after less people. We get clear who is our market. We target them. We change the messaging from who we are to the problem we solve. And with that, we get a higher level person. The result of that is deals compress, and we're usually able to add a zero to those deals. How does that show up in services? Most people have a problem today, and I'm going to go away from what I do to share it. If you're sick right now, Gary, and you don't feel well, what do you do every time? I don't feel well. What's your next move?
Go to the doctor.
Yeah. You don't even go to the doctor. You do something first.
Well, I usually call my wife or my mom and say, what can I do?
Well, you might. See, you know what most people doing today? I have a client, his son, graduated from high school at 13 or 14. He had a Harvard medical degree by the time he was 20 years old. Wow. He today is the head of cardio and thoracic surgery or something at a Mayo Clinic. Okay. He's only 32, right? Well, here's what he says his biggest frustration, my client's son's biggest frustration. In 2019, when people are sick, they go on the internet with their symptoms and they self-diagnose what they say. You know what? I have cancer. You know what I have? I have this thing. They come up with their disease, their problem. They call the doctor and they say, emergency, emergency. I, with all of my powers, have deduced that I have this problem. I mean, they did stay at a Holiday Inn Select, right? So I qualified. I'm a doctor. They decide what their problem is and say, please give me this solution. The challenge is in 2019, with so much misinformation and so much information that's available, the doctor has to say, you know what? I appreciate your concern. It sounds like you're having some challenges. How about we back up a little bit and let me be the doctor? Because the person who's sick usually doesn't have the ability to diagnose what their problem is. In 2019, when I take that into the business world, prospects think, I want something. They go on the internet, they do some research, they look around, they say, here's some logos, and then they fill out a form. They fill in a lead generation, and then you call them and they say, I want to buy this. Give me a quote.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that's what they should buy.
Right.
And so the art of selling in 2019, if we let consumers do what they want, they think they have the expertise to diagnose what the problem is. They're wrong almost all of the time.
Yeah.
And if we let them do what they want, they'll buy something that sometimes can even hurt them, just like medicine. So what does a salesperson have to do? What does a business owner have to do? What does a consultant or a professional service provider have to do in 2019? Take people that are interested in you and back them up. Back them up into, before we go forward, how about we figure out what you're trying to accomplish, where you are, the challenges that you've had, things that you've tried and why they didn't work, and then underneath that, the impact if we don't solve this before we try to solve it. Because unless we understand that, I'm probably going to give you the wrong answer. Gary, in 2019, here's the challenge. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. Everyone wants a solution. Nobody wants to talk to a salesperson. So what they say is, here's what I want. Give me a presentation. Give me case studies. Give me a quote. And then when you give them a quote, what they say is, that's too much money.
Yeah.
So we help people solve that riddle. by slowing that down, by coming back. A weird thing, almost everyone that's a prospect in 2019 says salespeople overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many people overpromise you, Gary, and underdeliver?
I've learned a lot over the last 56 years, so I've dropped that number dramatically. I have actually I'm able to manage people now and meet those expectations. But every now and then, people they just don't step up to the plate like they were supposed to.
Well, part of the problem is the buyer. The buyer says, "Sell me," and then you sell them, and then they say, "You're salesy." They don't. So, what does the good doctor do? The good doctor does a physical, does tests, then does a diagnosis. And then the last thing is they give a prescription. The great salesperson of the present masters the art of the diagnostic. It says, let's slow down, let's measure twice. Not everyone is my prospect.
Mm-hmm.
And when I really need a customer, I really got to fight that when somebody's excited to talk to me, that I'm excited. I got to be like, you know what? I'm glad somebody wants to talk to me and I need the business. Let's make sure this is right, because bad business takes a lot of time to fix.
Right.
And so the great business developers today know who their market is. They work with less people. They're less eager. There are more boundaries they set, and they say, you know what? Let's take this through. If I can help you, I'd love to. In the highly likely event that we're not a fit, I can probably refer you to a person that can help you better than me. In my business, I probably refer more business than I do.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to work on a piece of business that doesn't fit what my excellence is. But because of that, Gary, I get referrals. And because of that, I have people that send me to people who send me to people to send me to people. And based on so many different people that are listening to this call, I'd like to tee up my two best agnostic across all industries, best ways to build a sales practice. Are you open to hearing them?
Absolutely, yeah.
I believe that money grows on trees. Do you?
Well, I do now.
I believe that money grows on money trees.
Mm-hmm.
I had a mentor when I was probably 24, which would be about 30 years ago. His name was Tom Otteson, and he was the top Northwestern mutual agent in the world. Mm-hmm. And I used to stalk him. You could walk with him to his car and back, and he would give you advice. And I'd be, Tom, how do I get to be like you? And he's like, okay, here's what I do. He says, I spend 90% of my time looking for business for 11 other people. And I'm like, how do you make money doing that? He said, I have 11 other people who spend 90% of their time looking for business for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what that says is referral partners. In my world, a disproportionate amount of my business comes from private equity firms.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lawyer partner, and I have an accounting partner, and I have a supply chain logistics management partner, and I have an M&A partner, and I have different people that are best of class. Mm-hmm. That when I talk to people and I hear they have problems, I say, would you like to talk to one of my friends? And I shoot them over to people that are amazing.
Yeah.
These same people tend to send their business, their associates to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I usually, when I started, I looked for people to send business first. The best way to get referrals is to give business to people that can refer you.
Yeah.
I looked for who I could really help, who are awesome that would help my clients. And I would listen to my clients and I would say, what's an unmet need? What's a problem that I don't solve that they haven't figured out? And then I would figure out who could figure it out. And I'd say, I have a client that needs to talk to you. Would you like to meet him? Well, two things happened. My client said, you're indispensable. I need you. You're bigger than what I do with you. You are a network of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But underneath that, I sent business, and then they said, well, what do you do? And they said, I have some people that you should talk to. I'm like, you're kidding.
Yeah.
And, that started in 1997. I don't market. I don't market ever. I don't. There were years where I didn't have a website up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do any marketing. I just last week outsold my last year by 20%.
Nice.
Okay. Now, that isn't because I'm so special or anything. There's a target who I work with.
Mm-hmm.
I look for people that had that target. I found customers for people that had relationships, so they wanted to help me. That's the first spot. But here's the second. Gary, when you do business with someone, do you send a thank you note?
Not a handwritten note, but I always send them a follow-up email. Yep.
Okay. Your emails go into like their email and they get lost forever.
Yeah.
Your handwritten note will sit on their desk for months and sometimes years. But here's the trick of the trade. In my world, I send handwritten notes because nobody gets them anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody gets them anymore. So when I get referred by someone, I send the new client a thank you note, and then I send the person that sent me that referral a thank you note, often with a gift, a book. I think I sent you a book once, right? Tony Robbins' book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'll say, I have a lot of neat friends like Tony Robbins, et cetera. They'll autograph a book. I'll send it to them as a thank you. But here's the trick. When somebody gives me a referral, it usually came from a customer who came from a referral, that came from a referral, that came from a referral.
Mm-hmm.
I just was on a business trip for 8 days. I went from Fort Lauderdale to New Jersey, to New Hope, Pennsylvania, to New York City. And in those 8 days, I closed out a year of business.
Mm-hmm.
I came back, and this is my first day back in my office. Tomorrow, I'll probably spend 2 hours, and I'm going to write 50 thank you notes.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I do, Gary. I checked. I have a person that became a client last week that was a 14th generation referral. Somebody referred me in 97, who sent me to someone, who sent me to somebody, who sent me to somebody. 14 generations.
Yeah.
If it weren't for the person in 97, would I have gotten the business last week?
Nope.
Is it their fault? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a note to all 14 generations of those people. And it's going to say, hey, hadn't talked to you for a while. I just got back from New York City. I was so excited because we're going to do some great work for this person. And as I reflected in being thankful, it occurred to me that if it weren't for you trusting me in 1999, none of this would have happened. You see, they sent me to this person who sent me blah, blah, blah. And now, 14 generations later, our relationship is still making a difference for my family. I hope you're well. I'd love to cross paths with you and buy you a lunch just to thank you. Tommy, I'll put that in the mail 14 times for that deal. And then for another deal, it might be 6 times. And for another deal, maybe it's only 3. But here's what will happen. Those 50 cards are going to go through the universe, and they're going to go through the mail, and they're going to show up in about a week. And here's my experience. About half of those will call me in the next 2 weeks. And it'll sound like this, Gary. Wow, congratulations. Man, I miss you. You know what? We could use an update. I've been thinking about you. I've got a person that you should meet. I got a cousin. I will generate another wave of business just by being thankful. Now, how much did it cost me to do that?
Just a few dollars, a little bit of time.
Probably 50 between the envelope, the card, and the sticker. Now, I'll probably send 20 of them books, so you could add on another, $500 to that, and maybe they're heavy books, so maybe, another 100. But let's say all in, let's say I spend $700. What will happen? Hundreds of thousands of dollars will show up in the next 6 weeks just because of being thankful. And those cards, see, your emails, they go, that's nice. And then they disappear with the rest of your email. But I'll tell you that card will sit on someone's desk. And if I have a relationship and I say something that's appropriate about our relationship, it will sit there. Sometimes, Gary, I go to senior executives and my card is there 3 and 4 years later.
Mm.
So the power, I don't care what you do, whether you're a chiropractor, a salesperson, a business owner, the long art that has gone away is the art of personal gratitude, handwritten notes. Now, we can teach you to sell.
Right.
This is a thing that my mom taught me.
Right.
You know, you get a Christmas present or you get a birthday present or a graduation present. My mom would be, did you write them a thank you note? Sit down and write you a thank you note. You don't do it, right?
Yeah.
In a world where nobody does that anymore, it shows your character.
Right.
And it's free. And so that'd be the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, there's a couple of huge lessons there. You know, referral business, in fact, when I was 100% in production, Tom, as a broker, it got to the point where I didn't market or advertise either. All my business came from current clients. But the gratitude thing is probably the biggest lesson there. So managing a referral business, everybody out there listening, you know, make it and be intentional about it. And the way it starts is, like Tom said, is just to really be, if you're already thankful in your heart, we all have that gratitude innate in us when somebody does something for us. It's expressing it, simply taking that action. And it's such an easy thing. Once you do it, it's habit forming. Just start the habit. I mean, you know, once you do it for 21 days, it's a habit. Maybe it's 25 days, maybe it's 15 days, but I promise you guys, follow the advice. You see why I wanted to have Tom on here? Because I knew something golden nuggets going to come out of this. And hopefully get to see him in person too. Come to the events and maybe perhaps two of them will have Tom there with us.
I just pulled out my bag, and I must be taking it out this weekend, but I travel. I know that wherever I go, somebody is going to do something I'm thankful, and I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
And so I have stamps. I try to send them even so, you know, I'm on the plane and I can, you know, knock a few out. I wanted to share two other things. So, and why is it so important? I think it was Newton. Maybe Einstein that said, you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in the seed. Like if I cut an apple in half, you could say there's 12 seeds in there.
Right.
Well, we could take those seeds, put them in the ground, grow a tree. The tree's going to have thousands of apples for decades, and those thousands of apples propagate and create thousands of more trees. See, you don't have to go after all of the people in the world.
Right. 5
good clients that are the right kind of clients that you serve remarkably well can change your life forever. How do I know? Because I did it in 1997. No, but to help you, it does help. I have a practice, Gary, and that is I get clear. Who is my ideal prospect? And then who can I serve? Yeah. Whenever I do a piece of business, I often ask on a scale of 0 to 10, how referable was the experience with me? That, you know, how likely is it you would refer this experience to friends, family, business colleagues? I almost always get a 9 or a 10. And then I say, Gary, what's the basis for that score? And they say, you were on time, you did what you said, you crushed it, we got a 20-time return on our money, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm always looking to build my business before I go look for other people. Are there any unmet needs that you're hoping I could help you with? And then I might have an incremental opportunity to serve them. If not, then I say there are 2 different kinds of clients that we're kind of committing to serve currently. Do you mind if I review who those people are? And then you could tell me if there's anyone that, you know, in your network that you think would be a benefit for me meeting you, and then they'd owe you a favor. And then I say, here's my bread and butter client. My bread and butter client is a person usually somewhere 30 to 55. They're in a business that hopefully has better margin, that's consultative, that it's not just selling a widget, but there's some kind of value add, that the people make a difference. They're in this geography. That's my bread and butter. Here is my ideal client. And then I would tell them what my ideal client is. And then I say, are there any names that come up in either group? No, they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, really, which one? And then after that, before I talk about that, they might say Gary Wilson. I say, oh, Gary Wilson, awesome. Who else?
Mm-hmm.
Then they name another one of our friends. Then they name another. And I say, who else? Who else? When I'm done, I might have 6 or 7 names.
Mm-hmm.
And then I come back and go, obviously, there's different levels of potential engagement here, Gary. Of all the names that you had suggested, who do you think will have the most open mind? That would be like the most open, and probably the most likely to want to get a call from me.
Yeah.
And then I say, really, why'd you pick them?
Mm-hmm.
And then with frequency, I'll say, would you be open to us calling them right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then right with them, we call them, or when we're on the telephone, we call them. Now, I will tell you, to be transparent, my referral flow that comes in is greater than my need. So that's what I do when I need business, which doesn't happen very often. Based on kind of my methods on how I do my business, I get over a referral a day. Right. So, in the last week, I got home Thursday, and I have 5 appointments today for referrals based on things that came over the weekend. I don't look for business too much.
Right.
Why? The more you're clear on who you serve, and the more people know that, the more referrals you get. And I don't know what your business is like, Gary. I'm guessing yours and many of your podcast listeners, people that came in on a referral tend to refer more.
Yeah.
So if someone was referred to you, when they're done, they tend to say, you know who you should talk to. What's been your experience?
Yeah. Actually, I was just thinking my top 2 clients of all time, going back over the last 20 some odd years, but both are referrals. And one of them referred the other one, by the way. So there's that chain. So yeah, amazing. And they were both business owners. Just an amazing, you're validating everything you're saying. It's like we need to be reminded of the simplest truths and lies. And we tend to make life way more complicated than it needs to be. Usually the most profound paths that we can follow for the greatest success are usually the simplest, So everything we need is right in front of us,
That's typically what it is, it's this easy. Figure out who you can help them, ask them for help, be thankful. They'll keep helping you, repeat.
That's
I
it.
was sitting the other day, and, I got a couple $100,000 of business at an appointment, and I reflected. And the original referral, the generations back, was 1994.
Nice.
I just started. I'd not done this before, and somebody who had less experience than I even had, asked me to work with them, and I looked back and I started adding all of the dollars this person had referred to me. And I've been like, what would I have done, in the years where I bought a home and I was, a young dad, and, I was able to bring my wife home from, her job and buy her a new van and, make sure that the college education fund was full for my kids. This guy was maybe my number 1 income producer from 1994. I made a significant percentage way now, 20 some years into the future today, right? What would have happened if I never met him? What would have happened if I wouldn't have been thankful? And so in the other room, you see all my baseball junk. I have this beautiful frame picture of Tiger Woods. He's a big golf fan. And it's all of the Sports Illustrated covers that Tiger was on the cover. And then there's a big center one and he signed. But I'll tell you what, today we will wrap that up very elegantly, make sure it doesn't get damaged. And I'm going to send it back over them to say, hey, I always try to be thankful, but you have no idea the difference you made for me, the relationships you made. And you were a champion. You're one of the greatest ever. And I know you love golf, so I'm sending you this from my wall because it probably will look better hanging in your office than mine.
Well, I'll tell you what, I love that story. That was kind of brings me to the end here. I want to wrap it up with like the big why, like what, and I know it's a typical question of why, what's the why behind the why, but I got a pretty good feeling what drives you, but tell everybody else, and maybe with some couple words of advice, like what drives you and keeps you going, because there's a lot of passion that comes out when you're talking. It all has to do with the gratitude and always being mindful of that, and not just being mindful of it, but acting on it. But is there something deeper? Like what drives you to do what you do? And the reason I ask it is, I think we wrap these podcasts up like this. That answer, that one question, is usually the one that gets people up out of the chair and making that next phone call, calling somebody they haven't spoken to in a couple of years to thank them for the referral they gave them that led to 3 other referrals. But just try to ramble here. Just kind of, if you can dig deep for a moment and share that, I think it really help a lot of people.
You ever been poor?
Been poor? Oh yeah, been rich and poor twice actually.
Yeah. Well, I grew up. My parents were not educated, and my dad had an 8th grade education. He had a choice: go to school and become a priest, or work on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And at 8th grade, he decided maybe a life with girls was better than being a priest.
Yeah.
So he went back to the farm. And not being a very educated guy, he had some limits to what he could do. But I remember I don't know if you ever heard of the Head Start program.
Yeah.
But it was for kids that had a certain income.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a Head Start program, and I was the only white kid. I lived next to a reservation, a lot of Indians, so great people, no challenges there. But I just remember going, I never want to be poor.
Yeah.
Never want to be poor. And my mom said, you know what? Leaders are readers. If you read, if you get educated, if you do things, all kinds of opportunities will open to you. So she took me to the library, and I'd be the nerd that took 50 books home on the weekend that were all the states, and then I'd memorize the facts.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to college, and I was competing for a scholarship, and it said, write an essay about about something that you're going to do. And I was like, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm like, I'm not going to solve this problem. Mm-hmm. And then I looked at about, and by the time I was done, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to solve all of these problems. So my essay was, there's all these problems, and nobody's solving them, and I'm not going to be able to solve them either, because the problem is how we look at those problems.
Right.
But it will give me the money.
Yeah.
I will spend the rest of my life trying to figure out how to solve those problems. And they gave me the money.
Wow.
And so I went to college. And one thing I did really early is I got mentors. Mm-hmm. And so what I would say is, who's the best in the world? And then I'd study with them. And then from that, I got opportunities. For a while, the great Chet Holmes, he was a mentor of mine. And when he was dying, I was able to take his spot and travel around the world with Tony Robbins. And, he went from a guy who bought his books to he's introducing me as the guy after him on his stages. And right. Whether it be him or senators or people that ran industry, I would absorb everything I can. And here's the reason. A, there's a fear. I never want to be poor again. Mm-hmm. But there's this other spot that's even bigger. And I don't know what it's like for you right now, Gary, but I'm seeing a lot. I'm 54. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing a lot of people my age die. They're dying all over the place. And I realized that I don't have forever. But I have a list of dreams. Maybe you do, and maybe some people do. So what's a good reason to really be extraordinary? Because I want to cross lists off. I'm telling you, when I came out of the corn at the Field of Dreams mm-hmm. and got to play a game with Rod Carew, who was the first, he was in the first game I ever saw, and I was sitting next to him. And when I got to play with Reggie Jackson, I'm like, you know what? In the world, if you're working in a school or you work at a store or something, there's only so many things that can happen. But when you are an investor, when you're a salesperson that has dreams and you serve enough people, you'll make enough money, and you can do anything. And if the project is bigger, well, then you just need to serve more. Before this call, I was on the phone with a woman in New York, mm-hmm. and she just did a movie. It's called The Other Boys of Summer. It was about the Negro Leagues. And it was about the role of the Negro Leagues in civil rights. Well, through a series of things in my life, I met a man who bought the Milwaukee Braves in 1963, I think, moved them to Atlanta for the goal of integrating the South. That was this guy's, he was 33 years old Gary.
Mm-hmm.
And his dream, I'm going to buy a baseball team and move it to Atlanta so that the South can solve its racial tension. He today is still the chairman emeritus of the Atlanta Braves, but he's 90 years old.
Wow.
And so I was talking with this lady saying, this man has so much wisdom and he has so much of a backseat to understanding what happened in our world and how we can make a more peaceful world. There needs to be a movie about what he thought and how he did it and what it was. And then the dignity of Hank Aaron, the great baseball player who broke the records, but did it with a lot of strife where people wanted to kill him because he was breaking a white man's record. So what motivates me? I sit down with this lady saying, there's a story that needs to be told. You seem to be a person that could tell it, and I know the people. How much money do I have to come up with so we can make this movie?
Yeah.
I have a list of projects. The longer by the way, the older I get, I don't know what it's like for you, but my list gets longer, and not because I'm not chopping them off. My list gets longer because I see more things that I'd like to see. Steven Spielberg said, Gary, somebody asked him, Mr. Spielberg, do you do a lot of market research? Because all of your movies are hits. He said, nope, I make the movies I want to see. And so for me, Gary, my motivation is I make a list of everything that I want to see. I want to see a baseball field in Iowa with 24 parks where kids come and they learn about the history of baseball, not just play it. I want to see movies. I want to see all kinds of projects. And if I don't do them, who will? So that's what motivates me. It's to do the things that we can because we can.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story. And I'm going to wrap this up, but I will tell you briefly, you mentioned Hank Aaron. When I was 8 years old, I was in boys' summers camp, YMCA camp in the foothills between North Carolina and South Carolina, Camp Greenville. And we got to take a bus ride, about 2.5 hour bus ride down to Atlanta to see Hank Aaron hit number 712. Can you imagine, 8-year-old boy? And then now the next game, they pulled him out because he had threats on his life. But of course, he eventually went on and hit number 714. And as an 8-year-old kid, we didn't know. I mean, people are taught racism and prejudice. They're not born with it. At the time, at 8 years old, we didn't think anything of it. It didn't occur to me whether he was a white man or a black man or any other type of ethnic background. The fact is, he was a hell of a baseball player. I didn't learn until later on. I didn't know for years, Tom, that the reason he was pulled out of the game the next night or the 2 days later was because there were threats on him. I had no idea. I didn't know that's how I was an adult, But in any case, I'm so grateful for you being on here and sharing this. Oh, you got a special surprise for us?
I wanted to show you something. See this box?
Uh-huh.
That story you just told?
Yeah.
That's one of my whys. This box holds the baseball of every one of the first 20 African-American players that played in Major League Baseball. It holds the first player from every team that was an African-American. There are dozens of pictures. My hometown, Satchel Paige was the greatest Negro League player of all time. I came from Bismarck, North Dakota, and I was stunned in my research to find that he was the pitcher for the Bismarck Churchills.
Wow.
That he even went to North Dakota. Well, here's my point. Those stories, when they connect to you, they need to be told because they get forgotten.
Yeah.
And my challenge to your podcast listeners is, what's the project that needs to be done that you're connected to, that if you don't do it, it won't be done? What's the charity that needs your help? Who are the people that helped you? What are you committed to? And go make some money. And instead of waiting for someone else to do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Tom, I really appreciate you doing this. I look forward to seeing you next time. Hopefully it'll be in 7.5 weeks in Anaheim. If not, certainly in St. Louis on June 14th, 15th, 16th, or both. But I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for sharing your experience, some of your life and your wisdom with us. And if there's anything that we can do for you, if there's, I know you're not big on the websites, but if an email, a website, something that you want to share that will help them, it's the paying back thing, paying it forward. You never know where that circle is going to end up. Might come back to you eventually too. We'll put it in the podcast notes. Just email me, let me know. But for everybody listening, go to myinvestmentservices.com, sign up for the community, join us. We meet weekly on live webinars. We meet quarterly at live events. I do daily classes. We do monthly group special calls for people in the group. But network, meet other people who are looking to achieve the things you want to achieve too in life, and don't. No man is an island. I didn't get where I am by myself. I had help. Okay, and I'm sure Tom would say the same thing. So participate. Subscribe to the podcast and come to the events. We'll look forward to seeing you all. And always remember to, when you do invest not just wisely, but honorably and ethically. We care about our communities. We don't just invest for ourselves. We invest because we want to improve the communities around us and the lives of people that live in our properties. So God bless you all for doing this. And God bless you, Tom, for sharing in your time and your wisdom. And hang on, I'm going to hit the recording button. I'll be on back in just 1 second. Well, you guys, everybody take care. God bless you and your families. And we will see you on the next podcast of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Be sure to go to myinvestmentservices.com to join our community and start building wealth today.